Why is Michael Jordan Michael Jordan? Because he has a mindset that he will not be beaten. And he created that mindset over the years of just getting tougher and tougher and tougher. This allows you to create that kind of mindset in hours. And I sat in this Porsche, and as I touched the steering wheel, I felt like a different person. And I discovered this tool that not only do you visualize, but you use emotions to change your mindset. By using emotions, we can create the mindset of somebody who has already succeeded, which causes a number of additional laws of the universe to now work for us.
Welcome to the All-Star Athlete Podcast, your guide to mastering the mental game and reaching your full potential. Today, our guest is Bob Raybould, the creator of the Success by Emotions tool, a framework designed to help people unlock peak performance, whether you're competing at the highest levels of sport or simply trying to become the best version of yourself in everyday life. Bob will be turning 90 years old later this year, and in this conversation, he brings decades of hard-earned wisdom to the table, sharing stories and insights that are genuinely inspiring no matter your age or background. In today's episode, we get into the Success by Emotions tool itself, the differences between growth and fixed mindsets, convergent versus divergent skill development, and how the principles of sports psychology apply far beyond the playing field. This one has a lot of depth to it. I think you're going to really enjoy this episode, so let's get right into it. All right, well, without further ado, let's go ahead and get right into it here. I'm glad that you had some extra time to reflect on the tool that we're going to discuss today. I want to thank you for taking time out of your, no doubt, busy life, despite everything that's been going on. And yeah, so go ahead.
Well, it's great to be here. I appreciate your taking the time to reach out to us and have us on and share some ideas.
Yeah, absolutely. If you could start by maybe just kind of introducing yourself, who you are, and maybe a little bit about where yourself or why you're even here speaking to me today.
Well, my name is Bob Raybould. On the 12th of July, I'll be 90. So I've had a few years of experience. Over 50 years ago, I was struggling greatly. I had received an MBA from the University of Utah, had some opportunities with large corporations, but decided I wanted to work for myself. And in those days, the only real options were for a salesman. I guess there were lots, but mainly in the area of finance, which was my area of interest, was to be a stockbroker, be a real estate salesman, or sell life insurance. And in selling life insurance, they would give you a stipend and help you get started. And since I was just coming out of school with no money, that's where I started. And I worked for about 15 months, working about 60 hours a week, and did not achieve the kind of success I felt I could. So I used my MBA, went to work for a large corporation in New York, did fine there, but realized I just didn't want to be part of a large corporation. So I came back to selling life insurance and again struggled. But in the process of struggling, I was reading books and listening to motivational tapes and all sorts of things. There actually were no motivational tapes of very many because everything was still on records. I mean, this is a long time ago.
Yeah, this was back in, what year are we talking here?
We're talking 1968. And a friend of mine was selling Earl Nightingale stuff, and I bought his record, The Strangest Secret in the World, and listened to it. And as I listened to it, his main message is, you become what you think about. And that you should set a goal and start thinking differently. And so I set a very ambitious goal to 4 times the amount of money I was going to be making in the future in 30 months, 2.5 years. And then I started visualizing that, and he said, see yourself doing what you're going to be doing after you've achieved your goal. And so I went to the Porsche dealer, because I was going to be driving a Porsche after I reached this goal. And in that day, not many people drove Porsches. There were so few of them on the road that if you met another Porsche driver, you'd flip your lights at the other driver, because there were just a few of them out there. But I love Porsches because I'd previously been in the Army in Stuttgart, Germany. I got a commission when I graduated in 1961, and in the summer of 1961, the Berlin Wall went up, and we sent a lot of troops to Germany, and I was one of them. And so Porsches are built in Stuttgart, so I became kind of an admirer of Porsche and the whole concept of the rear engine car, and had a Volkswagen. And so I went to the Porsche dealer, and I sat in this Porsche, and as I touched the steering wheel, I felt like a different person. And I discovered this tool that not only do you visualize, but you use emotions to change your mindset. And for the next 3 weeks, every time I got in my Volkswagen, I pretended I was in the Porsche and had that, and recreated that feeling and recreated those emotions. I didn't know what I was doing because I was discovering this, but at the end of the 3 weeks, I had created enough emotions to convince myself that's who I was, to have the mindset of somebody who was a Porsche driver, the mindset of somebody who had already achieved my goal. And I knew then, on that day, that I was going to succeed. I didn't have a clue how I was going to do it, but my mindset was there, and I knew I'd figure it out. And it was a struggle, but I did. 30 months later, I had 4 times my income. Well, my goal had been making $8,000 a year. It's a long time ago, and my goal was to make 32. That would be like 80,000 and 320 today. And I only made 31,780, but I figured that was close enough to call it 32. So I figured I'd reach my goal. Then the amazing thing that happened is that each year for the next few years, I doubled my income. My mindset was so strong for success that I just kept succeeding. And so 5 years ago, I decided that I needed to understand this tool better. And I was going to write a pamphlet. And as I understood it, I realized it was something really powerful here. And I used it to become a better person. I didn't want to become a better person, but I knew that the tool would allow me to become a better person, and if I became a better person, everybody around me would be better off, and I would be better off, and I'd be more able to succeed. And now I understood the tool a little better, and it took me only 7 days to know that I would succeed. And then 18 months, I felt that I had become a better person, and had some significant events happen that demonstrated that. But just like with making more money, I've built the mindset of a better person, and it's just continued to help me go forward. And so the concept is different than traditional growth in that we are creating the mindset of the person who has already succeeded before we start, rather than creating the mindset of somebody who's already succeeded after we finish. And I think that it works because the laws of the universe control everything. And the more laws of the universe we have working for us, the more easily it is for us to succeed. And the more laws of the universe are not working for us, the more difficult it is for us to succeed. And by using emotions we can create the mindset of somebody who has already succeeded, which causes a number of additional laws of the universe to now work for us. You know, you look at Musk, he is just totally focused on succeeding and has lots of the laws of the universe working for him. And this can help somebody. I'm sure Hitler had lots of the laws of the universe working for him. And he did bad things. I mean, the laws of the universe will help you do anything you want. And the more you want it, and the more you know you can have it, the more laws of the universe help you. So, I mean, it's not a magic tool to become better or worse. It's just a magic tool to become more of what you want.
It's just a magic tool to kind of amplify whatever it is that you're pursuing.
It allows you to use emotions and create a significantly stronger picture of yourself as somebody who's already succeeded. Create a new version of who you are. And what happens is the more you use emotions, the more you love the version that you're going to become more than the version you are, and that takes over control and brings all these laws of the universe in to help you.
Right. So this tool that you're referencing is, I believe you call it the Success by Emotions tool. Is that correct?
That's correct. I've written a book, Success by Emotions, and the tools outlined in the book.
Okay. And this tool, you kind of walked us through the process of how you created this tool or how it came to be. I'm guessing you coined the term success by emotion. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And as far as like, if you could just succinctly in a few sentences tell us exactly what the success by emotions tool is, kind of boil down that whole story that you just told us. What exactly is success by emotions tool?
It's the process of setting a goal and then listing some benefits that you'll receive by achieving that goal, and then listing some emotions that you'll be feeling after you've achieved the goal. And then feeling those emotions over and over and over again. And the process I suggest is you read the goal, you read the emotions. You read the first benefit, you read the emotions. You read the second benefit, you read the emotions. And you just keep going through and you write this down on a page, because people that write down their goals are much more successful than people that don't. And so writing it down on a page, and then you can just read the page. You can read the page when you're discouraged, you can read the page when you're excited, and every time you're going through it, you're accumulating emotions. And finally, you accumulate enough emotions that you change your mindset. And once your mindset's changed, then you can accomplish anything. You can accomplish your goal.
Okay, very well said. And we talked about this a little bit before the episode, but you have a number of years of experience working both directly and indirectly with athletes, which is kind of what we're here to discuss today, right? It sounds like this tool, the Success by Emotions tool, can actually be used really to set a goal and accomplish anything that you want to accomplish. So it's actually much more valuable than just in the realm of athletics. But you've used this specifically, I believe, with some high-level athletes. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Can you talk about that a little bit, your experience of how that works and what athletes you worked with and kind of the teaching and the mentality that goes into that?
Yeah. Let me say this first. If you're trying to become the very best athlete in any field, you've got competition. There's people fighting against you. Especially in sports like football, there's somebody across the line trying to knock you down, and you're trying to knock them down. But there's competition. And the higher you go, the tougher the competition gets, and the more factors you have to have helping you before you succeed. When, on the other hand, if you're trying to become a better person using this tool, your options are almost unlimited, because we can become better and better and better, and there's not that competition. We have infinite possibilities. And so for athletes that use this, at the same time, I'm trying to help them become better people and use it both ways, because they have more, everybody can be a better person. Few people can play in the NFL. I mean, the percent that make it is pretty slim. And the percent that make it and stay for a while is even slimmer. And I'm a football junkie. I love football. I've been going to University of Utah football games since I was 8. My dad was one of the engineers that helped design the stadium where the University of Utah used to play, and then they just expanded it on the same base. But I've been working with the University of Utah football team, basically the kickers, helping them become more effective, because this whole tool is using your mind to improve your skill. I don't know anything about weights or anything like that. And I'd had some success with the kickers. So when Urban Meyer came on the scene, I went to him and said, let me work with your kickers. I think I can help your field goal kickers hit a higher percentage and your punters kick more consistently and everything worked better. And so he let me work with the kicking team, and he was in charge of the kicking team. So he could kind of observe what was going on as it happened. And I had enough success that first year he was here with the kicking team that he allowed me to work with 6 players he thought had promise. And one of them decided he didn't want to play football anymore. And so I was really working with 5, and 4 of those went on to play in the NFL, which is a pretty good percentage of success. And then Johnny Bryant, who is the associate head coach of the Cleveland Cavaliers, was my scholarship athlete when he was at the University of Utah. And during the summer between his junior and senior year, took him to lunch a few times and taught him about the tool. In both of these cases, I didn't really understand the tool. I just understood parts of it, but the parts of it were enough to help them. And Johnny had shot foul shots at 80% his junior year, and he used the tool and has given me some credit for that. During his senior year, he shot 90%, which is pretty good for a player.
That's excellent. That's kind of the gold standard for shooting free throws, I think,
Yeah.
even in the NBA.
Yeah. And so he's gone on to have a very successful career. I don't know how much of the tool he uses, but he was kind enough to endorse my book, Success by Emotion. And he's been a good friend ever since he left college. Other players, I found that, and this has nothing to do with the tool, but very valuable for athletes. When an athlete starts playing, when they first come out of high school, and some of them, when they come to the U, can concentrate. Others, their mind is going all over like a wild horse. And I found that if I got them to focus and learn to concentrate, it was easy. And if you look at, you can do this yourself. You probably know how to focus, but you'll understand what I'm talking about. Look at your thumbnail, and when you quit looking at it, look up, and we'll see how effective you are at concentrating, and then we can talk how to help everybody concentrate better. Just look at your thumbnail now, and when you quit focusing on it, look up.
Sure, and this is an activity that our listeners can do as well.
Yeah.
I'd like to stress that even though we're recording a video right now, this is actually going to be published on audio platforms as well. So anything where we visually demonstrate something will also kind of explain what we're doing to other people.
Yeah, we're just having you look at your thumbnail and concentrate on it as long as you can. And then with many, the tension will build, and after about 4 or 5 seconds, you know how to concentrate, so you're not doing this, and I know how to concentrate, so I'm not doing this. But many people at 4 or 5 seconds will just look up, can't concentrate any longer.
Right.
And so we have them do it again a second time, realizing that as this tension builds, they can focus in a way that just allows them to lock in and just stay focused. And then they can practice that and lock in faster and lock in longer. But it's just looking, and as the tension builds, just fight through it and lock in. Lock in. In school, they're able to concentrate better. I've noticed this was really great with receivers. They had trouble really concentrating the ball into their hands, and by learning to concentrate, they just, in 10 minutes they became a better receiver because
Yeah.
they were able to concentrate.
Now, what does that have to do with emotions specifically, or is this a different concept that we're
This is
talking about?
this is just something I picked up along the way. And another one that I picked up in college that was helpful to me. When I was studying, my mind would wander off to something, but if I wrote down on a paper what my mind wandered off to, it never wandered off again. And we can only think one thought at a time. And I think the way this ties to emotions is that if we're saying these emotions, it's pushing out thoughts that are keeping us from succeeding and giving us more control over our lives, because we now have a goal. We now can accumulate emotions around that goal. And even after we reach the goal, we just continue to accumulate emotions, and it gives us a sense of control in our life where it allows us to feel better. And on the Earl Nightingale tape, he talks about taking a 30-day test where every time you feel down or discouraged, you start over and you try to go 30 days without feeling down or discouraged. Well, this tool is entirely different because you're not starting over, you're just feeling your emotions. And once you know you'll succeed, one of the great benefits that comes that when you accumulate emotions, you go through step one, you believe you'll succeed, you keep doing it until you're convinced you'll succeed, and then you keep doing it till you'll know you'll succeed, and then you're doing whatever it takes to succeed. And once you reach step four, where you'll do whatever it takes, when waves just keep coming, like on the ocean, and they knock us down. But before I was using this tool, I'd stay down for 3 or 4 days or a week or 2 weeks. I'd be discouraged and it just couldn't get back up. Now that I found this tool, when the waves come, it may discourage me for an hour or so, but I say, wait a minute, this is just a wave. It's an experience here to teach me something so I can be more successful in the future. And so I view these ups and downs in life as opportunities to succeed, because I know I'm going to succeed. When you don't know you're going to succeed, the waves have more power over you. So I think that's a side benefit that comes from using the tool.
There's actually a couple of things that I want to touch on that you mentioned earlier, but since we're talking about this right now, to reiterate, the tool, as you were talking about just now, the first step is to believe that you're going to succeed. Is that correct? No. And kind of like associate some emotions with that?
Well,
right? Like happiness, excitement, joy, prosperity. Is that kind of what we're doing here?
I hadn't explained it very well, because what you're doing is feeling those kind of feelings. And when you feel them enough, you believe you're going to succeed.
So you start by feeling the emotions.
Feeling the emotions. And
so
then
just sit there in probably some quiet, undistracted area, right, where you can kind of focus on yourself and you know what you're trying to accomplish, and you just feel some emotions.
And you feel those emotions over and over again until you believe you're going to succeed. And then you keep feeling the same emotions over and over until you've convinced yourself you're going to succeed. And then you'll know you're going to succeed. And what you're doing is you're creating this version of yourself who has already succeeded. And as that version gets stronger, you first believe, then you're convinced, then you know.
So this is practiced over the span of days, weeks, months, years, I'm guessing?
Well, I think that if a person, and I suggest people start out with a small goal that they can reach in 30 days, because then they know that this tool's working for them. But on a small goal, they'll know within an hour that they're going to reach their goal. If they're just focusing, now they may spread that hour over 2 or 3 days and just focus here and there. A great time to focus is when you go to bed at night, because that's when your mind's most programmable. So I usually go to sleep saying my emotions over and over again, because it's just any time that you can fit in the time to say the emotions, you're accumulating the emotions to move you through these steps.
Okay. So it can happen in a very short period of time is what you're saying.
Yes. I mean, when I discovered it, it took me 3 weeks. Then it took me 7 days to become a better person. Now I know it works, and I'm semi-retired, and so I may spend a half hour accumulating emotions on a goal just to get to the point where I know I'll achieve it, because then time's much more effective after I know I'm going to succeed.
Right. So it sounds like the Success by Emotions tool is a skill, kind of not necessarily like any other. I don't want to categorize it like any other skill or kind of put it down in that sense. But it's a skill that takes practice, and at first it might take a little bit longer to get used to using it effectively. But then as you use this skill more and more, you can more quickly kind of lock in on whatever it is that you believe you want to achieve by kind of focusing on those emotions and convincing yourself that you're going to accomplish that, but faster and faster as you practice using this skill.
Beautifully said, beautifully said. And it's kind of like visualization, but you're using emotions to create the same results. And I think emotions are just stronger than anything else, and it just makes it all happen faster.
Fantastic. I really appreciate you sharing that. I wanted to go back to something that you said earlier, actually, and something that you showed earlier, because I wanted to make sure that our listeners got this. Earlier, a few minutes ago, you were talking about how the Success by Emotions tool can be used both for self-improvement and sort of by association, sort of directly and or indirectly, it can be used in competition against opponents. And on the screen, you were kind of flashing like an upside down V, or your fingers kind of pointing downwards, right? If I do like a peace sign and I point it downward for our listeners here, and you were kind of indicating with your finger that it's like a triangle, right? As you get closer to the top, there's more competition. The competition becomes more fierce. And so it's increasingly important to have a tool like this at your disposal against increasing competition. Is that true?
Absolutely. I mean, why is Michael Jordan Michael Jordan? Because he has a mindset that he will not be beaten. And he created that mindset over the years of just getting tougher and tougher and tougher. This allows you to create that kind of mindset in hours. And because you're creating it before you've succeeded, not after you've succeeded again and again and again. It's the mindset that brings in the powers of the universe to help you. And you get the powers of the universe helping you after you set the mindset. And if you can set the mindset after you succeed, or you can use the tool and set it before you succeed. It just, I'd say quicker is better.
Right. And conversely, the other symbol that you kind of flashed on the screen earlier as we were talking about this was a peace sign, or a V, with my two fingers, my index and my middle finger, pointing upwards. And I'll describe the Michael Jordan example that we just gave a minute ago as convergent, right? Skill levels and competition are kind of convergent as they come towards the top, right? They're getting closer and closer together in skill level and knowledge and ability. And you're kind of converging at one point. We're actually recording this while the World Cup is happening right now, which is a prime example of that. Soccer being the most popular sport in the world, right? Maybe we won't talk about that right now, but that's just an example of how the competition just gets more and more fierce as you get towards the top. But then to the second example, the sort of divergent nature of the Success by Emotions tool. This is the self-improvement aspect of it. I think, to your point, you can correct me on this if I'm wrong, but as individuals, we have kind of unlimited capability to improve ourselves. So the upwards facing V, right? My two fingers are pointing in kind of opposite directions. We have kind of unlimited capabilities for upward growth. Am I explaining that kind of right?
Yes. And I say use them together, because the better you become as a person, the more you develop who you are, the more competitive advantages you have. Because you just have more skills and more ability. And, integrity is so important, because if we're not honest with ourselves, it's hard to really make ourselves become great. In one of the records I used to listen to is quoted a French philosopher saying that honesty is the best policy, And if it didn't exist, we ought to invent it as the best way to get rich. And I'd say the best way to be successful, because the more we can trust ourselves, the easier it is to program ourselves to be more successful. Becoming a better person has lots of advantages.
Yeah, so let's pivot a little bit. I want to kind of push back on you for a minute, because there are a lot of people that may be listening to this podcast that disagree entirely with what you're saying. Now, I'm not one of those people, but you probably are aware enough in your experience over the years as a person and as a coach that sometimes people are just going to disagree with what you say, whether they're doing that on purpose or that's just their opinion. A lot of sports psychology or mindset frameworks treat emotions as something to manage or quiet down. And I think you kind of referenced this earlier with the other person you were saying who we were talking about, who was saying like, well, if you don't succeed, with whatever it is that you're accomplishing in like a 30-day period, then just start over, right? You're kind of ignoring what happened and just starting over. So kind of managing or quieting down your emotions. It sounds like you'd push back on that. So where does conventional wisdom go wrong with managing emotions or handling them?
Well, conventional wisdom says hard work's the key. And I think that there's a lot
to kind of ignore your emotions, right? Just work hard, ignore your emotions. It doesn't matter. Just keep pushing, right?
When I was first selling life insurance, they said work harder. Well, I realized that I couldn't work any harder than I was working. And I think that's a wonderful thing about working harder, is it finally gets to the point where I have to work smarter. And that almost forces you to use something like my tool or something else to help you get your mind helping you more. And I think that working harder only works better after your mindset is telling you you'll succeed. Because then you're working harder to succeed, not working harder to fight against your mind telling you can't succeed. And
right. So you're not working against your own internal negative self-talk, for example.
Yeah, I mean, people, when I was in college, I'd noticed people say, oh, I hate to take exams. I can't remember what I've learned. It's hard for me to cram. And I thought, this is stupid. I started saying to myself, I love to take exams. Remember everything I learn. When I cram, I just remember everything. And I started doing better on exams. And then I didn't understand the tool. I was just using self-talk, just using affirmations to improve. And the tool just uses emotions to help affirmations work faster.
Yeah, that's something that I would refer to if we weren't talking about everything that we were talking about right now, because I do the same thing. I call that a self-fulfilling prophecy. And you may have heard of the famous quote by, I think it was Henry Ford, if I'm not mistaken, whether you believe you can or you can't, you're right.
And I love that, because I would say, and the faster you can change your belief to somebody who can from somebody who can't, the more successful you'll be. And I think this tool, using emotions, is the fastest way to change your mindset from somebody who can't to somebody who can.
Yeah, so I totally agree with you. And I think now sort of the direction and what we're talking about specifically, if we continue to kind of reference sports psychology theories and concepts, and a big scope of this podcast is to kind of boil down some of these more academic topics like the trans-theoretical model or growth mindset versus fixed mindset. People may have heard of these things before, but we're here to really dissect these and break them down into more digestible, actionable things, right? So here we're talking about growth mindset versus fixed mindset. Fixed mindset being that somebody kind of has the belief, I can't do it, I've never been that good at it, doesn't matter how hard I try, and so on and so forth. You're aware of that. And then growth mindset being on the flip side, where you are someone who maybe you can't do it right now, maybe you can't do it yet, but you believe that through hard work and through dedication and through practice and through learning, you can accomplish something. So kind of relate success by emotions to that.
Well, I think that not many people push back many people in the past have given me kind of a blank stare that they just don't believe anything can be this easy. And that's the main struggle, I think, with people using the tool Success by Emotions, is it just takes constant encouragement. And so we're in the process of developing a program that people will pay to use. And then part of that program, we will be sending them texts several times during the day to remind them to start getting this to be a habit, because our habits are so strong. We have the habit of not using emotions to help us, and we fall into that habit and we just stay there. So, I mean, it takes some outside influence to kind of pick us up. And I think I've been struggling to how do I get more people using it, because it's so very powerful. And I think it's just having a program that people pay for so they're committed enough to do something, and then something that really gives them the daily help, not only in the information and how to use it and stories of people who have used it and understanding how it works, but the daily help to form that habit. And I'd suggest somebody, if we want to form the habit, set a goal to form the habit of using the tool, because then you can use the tool to change your mindset and have this a habit. I mean, that's the use of the tool is really incredible.
Yeah, kind of like a circular logic type thing. Set a goal to use this Success by Emotions tool to form the habit, and then once you form the habit, it'll be easier to set the goals and use the tool, right?
Yeah, and the first time people use the tool, they have two problems to overcome. One, the belief that they can't succeed at their goal, and the other is the belief that this tool doesn't work. And so that's why I tell people to start with a small goal, because then they're attacking two problems with the first goal. After they get the first goal, then that problem diminishes because they know the tool works and they're more. And as you're using the tool, then even though I've been using it for 50 years, before I get to step 3, where I know I'm going to succeed, my mind tells me, you're wasting your time. This is stupid. I mean, and I've used it for 50 years. So, and it happens to almost everybody. You just kind of go through this period where your mind is saying, I'm about to lose control. I'm going to fight like heck to keep it, and starts pounding you with all these things. It's just a delightful experience using the tool, because you're kind of playing with your own mind.
Yeah. And to the point that you just made, some people are, again, maybe they're fixed mindset type of individuals, but some people either refuse to try tools like this, or they try it a little bit and then just give up on it immediately. Those are the type of people who would probably say that emotional consistency is more just like a wiring in your brain than a skill. In other words, you're kind of born with it or you're not. Like this, again, maybe Michael Jordan would be another example. Like you either have the killer mentality or you don't, right? Like they don't believe that these skills or traits can be learned. It's either you have it or you don't. And so, if we're talking about athletes, a lot of people believe like, I either have it or I don't, or they have it or they don't. And that's why they succeed, or that's why they didn't succeed. How do you respond to people who kind of have that mentality of like, you either have it or you don't?
Well, I haven't been around coaches lately, but I remember coaches saying to me, how do you give somebody a heart? Because if this guy had a heart, he'd really be good. And I think the tool gives somebody a heart. But a man convinced against his will is of the same opinion. I mean, if somebody's determined to stay stuck and their mindset is that I'm stuck, I'd rather help somebody else who wants to help. And then down the road, the people that we've helped will come to the person that's stuck and say, you don't really need to be stuck. It's easier than you thought.
Yeah, say that again. A man convinced
against his will is of the same opinion still.
And so that just means that...
Well, if I go to I'm a Republican. If I go to a Democrat and try to teach him to be a Republican, he's not going to even listen to me, because he's so convinced that I'm wrong that he won't listen. And if you're determined that you can't change your mind and have it change your results, that's really a hard person to deal with. I'd rather focus on the people who believe they can change their mind and help them change it faster. I've got some friends that are really stuck, and I thought of ways, and my marketer says, don't waste your time. You're never going to succeed with them. It's kind of like making butter. You can't make butter out of skim milk. You make it out of cream.
Right. So in other words, in order for someone to succeed with this tool, or generally speaking, to change an ability of any kind, whether it's in athletics or political party, the person needs to have a belief that they can change. If they're stuck in their ways so hard that they're not even listening to outside reasoning or logic or emotion of any kind, then they're just going to be stuck where they are.
And I think the easiest way to move them from that, in my experience, is to attack it from a different side. Are you telling me you know everything and there are no new ideas? Is your patent office closed because you think that all the inventions have already been made? I mean, it's not changing the opinion, it's changing the logic behind the opinion, that there are, as we grow in life and learn more things, as our circle increases, the outside of our circle increases, and there are more things we don't know. And if you can just get people to start increasing their circle, then they can say, wait, there are things I don't know. Maybe this is one of them that'll help me.
Yeah, I think I could be wrong about this, but I believe the concept that you're referring to is often referenced as the Dunning-Kruger effect. My understanding of that is that, to your point, as humans, the more that we know, the more that we learn, the more that we realize how little we actually know and how much more there is to learn.
Yes.
And conversely, the less that we know and the less that we learn, the more that we think we know everything.
Yeah, and when sometimes on my videos, when I'm describing this tool, I'm saying that when you're working on an onion, you're peeling it back a peel at a time, a layer at a time, to get to the center of the problem so you can fix the problem. With this tool, you're just able to cut the onion in half and go right to the center and fix the problem. And then you're working from the outside in, letting this new understanding help you discover additional understandings. So it's kind of the same thing, just realize you don't know everything, and the fact that you've got a new idea, build on that new idea and let it really help you, instead of just be satisfied to learn one new idea.
Yeah, very well put. Well, Bob, you've been using the Success by Emotion tool for decades.
Right.
I don't know how many exactly. As you mentioned earlier in the show, you're going to be 90 later this year. Early happy birthday to you. My question to you is regarding sort of your work, your legacy, this tool, right? After all of these years that you've been practicing and teaching this tool and refining this, like, what do you want your work to leave behind? What do you want your legacy to be with this Success by Emotion tool, or just generally speaking?
Well, I think it's to help people be better people and help the world be a better place, because that's a thing that lasts. I mean, I've had some successes, but they're over, and who I am and who I continue to be is the thing that goes on. And I'd like to help people be better and be more of their potential, because I think that we all have that's the thing I've learned. I've done so many things that before I discovered the tool, I would have said that's impossible. I mean, I've increased my income 64 times over 6.5 years. I've become financially independent in 10 years. I've lost weight without dieting. I've overcome childhood trauma. I've moved from needing to be special and on the side of narcissistic to becoming a normal human with strengths and weaknesses, and enjoy my strengths and weaknesses and learn from my weaknesses and help them become strengths, as opposed to being terrified by them. I mean, I'm just such a happier person because I'm using the tool to become a better person.
Well, that's all very inspirational, everything that you just said. Obviously, increasing our income is a goal that a lot of people have, and sadly, not as many people set a goal to make the world a better place. I wish there were more people like you and I in that regard. But it sounds like as far as the Success by Emotion tool and your legacy, it's not just about athletics. You just want people to be the best version of themselves. You want people to be happier. You want people to be more successful, more in touch with their emotions, certainly directly or indirectly. And so it sounds like the Success by Emotions tool is a great way to accomplish those things.
Yeah, I mean, I believe we all have so much more potential. It's back to the laws of the universe. We could all use so many more of them, and it would make our lives better and the lives of people around us better. And sure, we can be a star and be a champion. I mean, I love it when my team wins and my players do great. But it's not the end of the world when they don't, because there are things more important and more lasting. And so and I think the other thing is the more we have a North Star, something that's more important than we are, then it's easier to make better goals because they help us be a better person.
Very well said. Very well said. I think it's important to have short-term goals, long-term goals, medium-term goals, and a lot of people ascribe to the idea of having something higher than themselves, whether that's religious or otherwise. I think it's a good idea to, be yourself, but then also have kind of like an outside influence that inspires you to be better and to grow and not only succeed, but learn new things and become the best version of yourself that you possibly can be.
I agree. Well said.
All right. Well, we're approaching the end of our time together, Bob. I'm wondering if there's anything else that you wanted to share that maybe we didn't cover today or that you'd like to kind of share in closing.
Just appreciate being here to share this idea, and hopefully somebody will pick up on it and use it to become better, because that's my only goal, is to help people become better.
Where can people find more from you if they want to learn more about your book or your website or any projects or services that you're working on or that you offer?
Well, the easiest place is to go to bobraybould.com, where you can get a one-page that describes the tool and how to use it. They can also read the book, but that takes longer. It's Success by Emotions, and I've written a second book, Believing by Emotions. But bobraybould.com, Raybould, the name is different. I've got a U in there that some people might leave out, but bobraybould.com, we've got this one page that I think that gives people an understanding of the tool and how it can help them.
Okay. I'll be sure to put specific links to that in the description for this podcast episode so that people know exactly where to go to find more from you, Bob.
Great. Thank you very much. And it's been a pleasure getting acquainted with you and traveling the privilege to talk to you.
Absolutely. It was a privilege having you on the show. Bob, I wish you the best with your Success by Emotions tools or any books or programs that you're working on. And if anybody would like to reach out to Bob, I'm sure he would be happy to connect. So until next time, we will be signing off here. Bob, I really appreciate you taking the time to speak with us today.
Thank you, and thank you. Good luck to you as well.
All right. Thanks, Bob. Have a great day.